Willie Nelson's story doesn't begin with fame or music, it begins with absence. Born in 1933 in a small Texas town, he entered a world already shaped by hardship. His parents left when he was still an infant, leaving him and his sister in the care of their grandparents. There was no dramatic goodbye, just a quiet disappearance that would echo through his life. His grandparents raised him with discipline, faith, and something more enduring: music. His grandmother gave him a guitar at 6, and in that moment, something settled into place. Music didn't replace what he lost, but it gave him a way to carry it. While other children had full households, Willie had melodies and lyrics forming in his mind. The absence never left him, but neither did the music. And in that quiet trade, a lifelong bond was formed. Music as a way out. Growing up in rural Texas meant long days, hard labor, and limited opportunity. Willie picked cotton, worked in fields, and learned early that survival required effort. But music was always there, threading through church hymns, radio songs, and late-night thoughts. By the time he was 9, he was playing in local bands. By 10, he was writing songs. Not childish rhymes, but words shaped by a sensitivity beyond his years. School never quite held his attention. His real education was happening elsewhere, in sound and feeling. Music became more than a hobby. It became a language. It allowed him to express things he couldn't say aloud. It gave him identity in a world that hadn't made space for him yet. In a town that offered little promise, he built his own through rhythm and words, holding onto a belief that his voice mattered, even when nothing around him confirmed it. Drifting without direction. Leaving his hometown didn't bring immediate success. It brought uncertainty. Willie tried different paths, including a brief stint in the Air Force, but nothing seemed to hold. He moved from job to job, selling Bibles, working as a laborer, taking whatever came his way. These weren't steps toward a dream. They were ways to survive while the dream remained distant. Through it all, he kept playing music. Small gigs, radio work, anything that let him stay connected to what he loved. His personal life was equally unsettled. Early marriage brought responsibility, but also tension and instability. He wasn't ready, and life didn't slow down to let him catch up. These years weren't glamorous. They were messy, uncertain, and often discouraging. But beneath it all, something steady remained: his commitment to music, even when it gave little back in return. The songwriter without a stage. Ironically, while Willie struggled to establish himself as a performer, his songwriting began to gain attention. He wrote songs that others turned into hits, songs that resonated deeply with audiences. Yet he remained in the background, watching others succeed with his work. The industry valued what he created, but not how he delivered it. His voice didn't fit expectations. His style wasn't polished enough. He was told, directly and indirectly, that he didn't belong as an artist. It was a strange position, being essential and invisible at the same time. He earned little from songs that would become timeless. Still, he kept writing, not because it guaranteed success, but because it was the only thing that felt true. While others performed his words, he held on to the belief that one day, his voice would be heard the way he intended it. Rejection, that refined him. The music industry at the time had a clear formula, and Willie didn't fit into it. His phrasing was unconventional, his tone raw, his delivery deeply personal. What others saw as flaws were actually the foundation of his uniqueness. But it took time and struggle for that truth to be recognized. He recorded albums that went largely unnoticed, played shows that barely paid, and lived with the quiet frustration of being misunderstood. Yet he didn't change himself to fit the mold. Instead, he leaned further into who he was, The rejection didn't break him, it shaped him. It taught him that authenticity might not be rewarded immediately, but it was worth holding on to. In a world that kept asking him to adjust, he chose to remain exactly as he was, and that decision would eventually define his legacy. The fire that changed everything. In 1970, a fire destroyed Willie's home in Tennessee. It could have been just another setback in a life full of them, but instead, it became a turning point. Standing in the aftermath, he realized something important. He had been trying to succeed in a place that never truly accepted him. The fire didn't just take his belongings, it cleared the path for a new beginning. He left Nashville behind and returned to Texas. There, something shifted. The audiences were different. They weren't looking for perfection, they were looking for truth. And Willie finally had a space where he could offer it without compromise. The loss became liberation. What seemed like destruction turned into direction. For the first time, he wasn't trying to fit into someone else's vision. He was building his own. Losing everything. Again. Just when life seemed stable, another challenge arrived, this time financial. A massive tax bill threatened to take everything he had built. His assets were seized, his belongings sold. It was a public and humbling experience. But instead of retreating, Willie responded the only way he knew how, through music. He recorded and performed tirelessly, using his work to rebuild what was lost. Fans supported him, not out of pity, but out of connection. They recognized something genuine in him. Over time, he repaid the debt and reclaimed his life. The experience changed his perspective. He understood more clearly that possessions were temporary, but his music, his ability to connect, was something no one could take away. Grief that never left success didn't shield Willie from personal loss. The death of his son was a moment that reshaped him in ways that words could never fully capture. It wasn't something he spoke about often, but it lived quietly within him. Grief became part of his music, deepening the emotion behind every note. He continued performing, not because the pain was gone, but because music gave it somewhere to exist. Loss followed him in other ways too. Friends, collaborators, people who had shared his journey. Each absence added weight, but also perspective. He didn't hide from it. He carried it, and in doing so, made his music even more meaningful to those who listened. Family and redemption. Later in life, Willie found something he had struggled with earlier: stability in family. He built a home where he could be present, where relationships had room to grow. His children, particularly those who followed him into music, became part of his journey in a new way. It wasn't about correcting the past, but about showing up differently in the present. That shift mattered. It reflected growth, awareness, and a willingness to evolve. The man who once lived mostly on the road found value in staying still, in being part of everyday moments. It was a quieter chapter, but no less important. A legacy of truth. Willie Nelson's legacy isn't defined by numbers or awards. It's defined by connection. His music speaks to people because it comes from a place of honesty. He never tried to be perfect. He simply tried to be real. Over decades, that consistency built something lasting. His songs became companions to listeners, present in moments of joy, loss, and everything in between. He showed that success doesn't come from fitting in, but from staying true. His life wasn't smooth or simple, but it was genuine. And that authenticity is what continues to resonate.